Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We begin our video today with a story in which a sick Karen decided to make a citizen's arrest right in the grocery store. Even though our OP did not press charges, she still ended up behind bars. Now we'll tell you more about why this happened. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Karen rips off my headscarf, wants me arrested for assault. So this was back in college at the local Walmart that's known for always being interesting. I have so many stories from this place. I swear Walmart is like a Karen beacon. This story is a bit chaotic. I tried to write it as clearly as I can, but a lot was happening all at once, and while the memory is vivid, it's also quite mashed together. Some relevant info. I'm pale and at the time walked with a cane. I have a condition where my heart rate can get too high and my blood pressure can drop and I can pass out from standing too long usually, but anxiety can bring on episodes too. I wear a headscarf on holidays and special occasions. Now there are many types and styles of headscarves. On this day I was wearing it in a style where it completely covered my head and then draped around my neck and was secured with pins. I use dressmaking pins. They're not very visible in the scarf, but they don't have anything covering their pointy ends. I make sure I place them so they will hold the fabric in place and not stick me. Since it's a holiday, I'm also wearing traditional clothing, a long skirt, white shirt with some embroidery on it, and a fabric belt. The racists were very emboldened at that time. I made the mistake of going to Walmart alone in traditional clothing. So I'm going around the Walmart picking up a few things. My backpack's in the front of the cart so I don't have extra weight on me. I'm standing at one of those aisle ends. I was trying to find something and had to look up where it was on my phone. Out of nowhere, my headscarf is ripped off my head as someone behind me yells, "Terrorist B!" Luckily, the scarf only had the end around my neck, so it pulled on my neck but didn't full-on choke me. Still, this definitely activated my fight-flight response. The woman, Karen, then starts screaming as I turn around. Apparently, one of the pins had stuck her when she ripped my scarf off. She's screaming that I'm a terrorist, I assaulted her, she wants the manager and the police called, etc. This couple had been down the aisle and saw it happen and ran over. The woman kinda threw her sweatshirt on my head and got between me and Karen. I was panicking at first but realized she was trying to help cover my head, and the man with her also had gotten between us and was yelling at the Karen. The NM grabbed my scarf back and handed it to NW, who handed it to me, and she took her sweatshirt and held it up around my head to sort of block people's view of my head while I tried to get my scarf back on. The Karen is still screaming that she wants the police to arrest me for being a terrorist, for assaulting her, and how dare he? She's digging through her purse to find pepper spray because she wants to spray me and the man. I honestly didn't even wrap my scarf properly, I just wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. A nearby employee had come out of the aisle to see what was happening and ran off to get the manager, I'm assuming. The NM is yelling back at Karen and had confiscated the pepper spray from her. Karen's demanding that the NM pin me to the floor so she can pepper spray me and do a citizen's arrest and keep me there until police and FBI arrived, since she's adamant that I'm a terrorist. So at this point I'm shaking and crying, my heart rate's extremely high, and I know I need to leave or I'm gonna pass out. The NW asked if I wanted to leave, I nodded, she grabbed my backpack and the arm that I'm not holding the cane in, and she quickly walks me down the aisle and out of the store. We just left my cart where it was. She asked where my car was, and I tried explaining that I'm a college student and have to wait for the bus, but I'm coughing and trying to breathe as my heart rate's well over 180 at this point. NW sees this and explains that she's a nurse and I'm clearly not okay and asks my medical condition and what I need. I explain what it is and that I need to sit or lay down because I'm going to pass out. She offered me to sit in their van, which usually would be obviously a no, but we're standing in the middle of a parking lot and I'm about to pass out, and currently my brain is not getting very much oxygen. She opens the side door and I sit on the edge of the car and promptly faint. I wake up a few minutes later and she's holding my wrist in one hand, checking my pulse and looking at her watch. I mumble something so she knows I'm awake and she just keeps telling me it's okay. I'm doing fine. After I recover a bit, I sit up and realize NM is standing outside the car. I think he was trying to give me privacy. I ask for the Gatorade from my backpack and sip on that, helps with the fainting, while he explains what was going down. He says that the manager showed up with store security and he explained, over Karen screaming, what happened and handed her pepper spray to the security guy and that the police had been called. I look over and sure enough, there's cop cars pulled to the front of the store. NM asked if I'd been hurt, if I wanted to talk to the police. Honestly, I'm scared of cops and just wanted to go home, so I declined to talk to the police or press charges. The NM went back inside to talk to the police a bit more, and I tried to fix my scarf a little better. I'd lost a few pins through all this, which was kind of annoying, so I couldn't wrap it how it was earlier. The NW told me my heart rate had been around 200 when I passed out, and luckily it had come down again quickly because she had considered calling an ambulance. She lets me know NM is texting her and reads out to me what's going down back in the store. As it turns out, I didn't need to press charges. Karen was so infuriated that NM would help me to get away, she got a bit aggressive. She was yelling at the manager, security, and the police officers when NM came back in. When she saw him, she rips out her pepper spray. Apparently they were dumb enough to give it back to her, and is screaming at him. Cops grab her arm to stop her. She tries to pepper spray the cop, gets taken down and cuffed. NW is positively gleeful as she tells me about Karen getting tackled. Apparently the Karen started screaming about suing the cops, getting the FBI involved, the classic Karen stuff. I didn't get to see Karen taken off to jail, sadly. My bus pulled up and the NW helped me over to it. Wow, this was crazy. You were assaulted by this crazy woman. Thank heavens for that nice couple who came to your aid. There are good people in the world. And our second story. Cut me in line? Fine. As I was pulling into Starbucks this afternoon, the line was stretching out of the appropriated drive-thru area and the cars were angled haphazardly trying to get in. Myself and a white car behind me were angled in a way that made us stretch out of the parking lot, so I pull around and get behind the car that's actually in line. As I pull around, the terrible person in the car behind me noses into the spot I had occupied and prevented me from rejoining the line. She even had the nerve to point to me and give the no, no, no hand gesture with a big effing smile on her big effing face. Needless to say, I was beyond frustrated at this point, but I noticed there were little to no cars in the actual lot, so I park, go inside, and am properly served. As I'm being handed my drink, I see the same GD face waiting at the drive-thru window and making smug eye contact. At this point, I could have just left with the smug satisfaction of getting my drink first, but this bee had the nerve to not just cut in line, but taunt me. I tell the cashier that the lady in the car is my mother, and she had requested that I go in to make sure her drink was made sugar-free and fat-free. The barista heard and dumped the complicated-looking drink she was making for her right then and started over. I gathered my drink, waggled it at her with a smile through the window, and drove off into the sunset, feeling very satisfied. Enjoy your tasteless drink, line cutter. And our last story. Entitled woman blocks private road and gets sent to court. First of all, some of what I say may be inaccurate as this didn't happen to me personally. However, it's still a great story and I felt it needed to go on this subreddit. Here's the situation. In a housing estate, there's a narrow path which leads to farmland, other housing, etc. The narrow path is the only way to get to the other side as there are two massive walls on either side. Going round takes about 5 extra minutes, and there's another route, but it involves going into a gully, which is a storage area for excess water, and it's usually very muddy and slippy and wet. Anyway, here comes the entitled woman who lives on the road where this narrow path is. About a year ago, she decided to put massive planters, really big flower pots, diagonally across the narrow path to stop people from getting through, because apparently she lives on a private road and people shouldn't be walking past her house unless they live here. Unless you're under the age of 8, you probably couldn't crawl under the planters, and getting over them is a no-no as they're at least 1 or 2 meters high. Going down the gully is dirty, so you pretty much have to go around. If you try moving them, then you'll get shouted at. I've heard many stories about people walking their dogs down the private road and hearing this middle-aged, entitled woman shouting at them for trying to cross the narrow path. Her husband has been pretty much brainwashed by her into thinking that people shouldn't be walking down the private road too. However, he's normally working and doesn't get involved. Entitled woman, however, is retired and sits on her butt all day looking out the window and telling people off for being on the private road. So many people complained, including people living in the area, e.g. my mom's friend and her son, that after a year, she finally got taken to court. Apparently, there were witnesses on one side of the case that were saying how nasty she was, and on the other side of the case, some of her friends were taken to the stand to say how nice she was whenever she walked past. However, at the end of the day, entitled woman lost the court case and got fined approximately £50,000, which will completely blow her pension pot, which was worth about 30-plus years of work. So you never know. She may have to start working again. You may be wondering why she was fined this much money for obstruction, but it turns out she sued the builder's blower and the court fined her the money, which would have been paid to the blower to cover the cost for solicitors, barristers, etc. Barristers can charge £500 per hour and maybe more to prepare a case. So all this added up in the end. I hope this helps people understand. And yes, those planters have finally been moved and everyone is happy. People have advised her to move as she'll be getting a lot of hate from people walking past, but apparently she doesn't want to move. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.